Now we're going to start the meetup. Thanks for being here again. I'm going to introduce John. Come on over, John. Let's give him a round of applause for being here. So John is kind of like the in-house band. He has presented Monday, Tuesday, and now today, Wednesday. So 3 nights in a row he's presenting at our meetups. And John's a good friend of mine. He's building this amazing technology where you can basically program and code in a virtual development environment. So I'm not going to spoil it. He's going to show you how that works. It's all on the JVM. It's all Java code. So the data engineers in the house who are writing Java, this will be very practical and applicable to you. He's also going to be scaling it out to other languages in the future. I'm going to hand it over to John. And but before we hand it over, John, can you tell us a little bit about your background real quick? And then we'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am coming from the world of computer-aided design, where you know, for an engineer who's building hardware and you know, really just wants to be able to create things, the prototypes for designs that are then maybe going to get turned into something real. It's really nice to have a version of that model, a virtual version, and computer-aided design software has been this powerful tool for a really long time. There's a natural marriage between CAD and virtual reality, which is the platform that we're developing on. However, we decided to take this in a bit of a different direction. So we're actually focused on applying computer-aided design principles to computer programming, and that's what we're going to show for you guys tonight. We have a live demo. It's going to be really fun. I have been doing this demo for the past 2 days. However, we are going to mix it up tonight. I'm going to show you a little bit more of a complicated program, as I know this is a crowd that enjoys looking at lots of data. So it's going to be a pretty awesome demonstration. We're going to be looking at the Java C compiler, which is a 150,000 line code program. So pretty cool stuff to look at in VR. So I'm really looking forward to show you that tonight.
All right, and I'll be fielding questions. So when we get to the Q&A part, I'll be rolling around the room with leap motion controls. And whoever asks the question, I will bestow a nice leap motion control to you. And let's get started.
Yeah.
And let's give John a round of applause one more time.
And for starters, I have one of these leap motion controllers. It's yours if you want to volunteer right now for the demo. Back.
Right here.
Sir in the back, you were first. Quick reflexes. That's good. Yes, please, come all the way up. What's your name?
Connor.
Connor. Let's welcome Connor, everyone. And in exchange, please follow me this way. I'm going to take you to my virtual room, which only you can see. Here, you're going to put on the headset. Yes, you can. Yes, it should fit. And the best way to do it, actually, just put it on your face or strap over. Push it, and they should fit inside. Yeah, there you go. You got it. Awesome. Okay, so Connor's in there, and now we're going to take a look at what he's looking at. Okay, so we use virtual reality to give you a window inside of a computer program. So Connor, I've got 2 other things for you here. I'm going to give you these hand controllers. Go ahead and reach out and grab that one and this one. Switched off. I'll turn it back on. Here's your other one. So cool thing about the platform we're developing on the HTC Vive, it lets you do room scale tracking, means we can walk around inside this environment. You can also use your hands. Lets us actually reach out and really grab onto the data. So Connor, you see in front of you there's a menu. So that's, you can really just put any kind of information up, and in VR you've got lots of room to display information, so it's really fun to build for this. And then as you found on the floor, there's a very large diagram. And actually, I'm going to ask you to take 2 or 3 steps back, and I'm watching out for you, so you're not going to run into anything. I'll use my hand as a guide. Turn to your right a little bit, and then, so turn right 90 degrees, and then walk this way, backwards. I gotcha. Give you a little tug, a love tug. Okay, that gives us a little bit better view. So what you're looking at right now is a hierarchical diagram of a very large Java program. So I mentioned this is the Java compiler. It's what is commonly used to compile programs into executable Java code. It's got a lot of different parts to it, and what we do is we organize these diagrams by their directories. So as you might group similar pieces of code into a directory just for organizational purposes. What we're doing is we're doing that graphically here. So Connor, as you can see, there's sort of a web diagram here. I'm going to direct your attention to the branch on the left. You see the label that says source? It's right below sun. Great. And then you see there's a couple of other leaves on that branch. There's doc tree, tree, and utility. You see those? Cool. So do me a favor. Let's go ahead and, with your left hand, just as you're doing right now, when you see one of those menus light up, go ahead and, there's a trigger underneath on your left hand, and you can pull that down and pop open the directory. So go ahead and lift your arm up and reach it to, you know, some height where we can just take a look at this data. Yeah, say again?
It's amazing.
Not my words. This is always fun with this demo because actually, Connor, I forgot to ask, is this your first VR experience?
It is.
This is Connor's first VR experience. This is very special. We all get to experience it with him. This is like actually one of the best parts of doing this is just showing people VR for the first time. I've done it to a lot of people, so it's, you know, I get around. Anyways, Connor, go ahead and take your finger off the trigger. And I'm wondering if I should layer more innuendo into this. I'm going to stop there. Okay, so you'll see that there's a large directory here that we're looking at. So let's see what we're taking a look at. And I'm going to actually change the contrast here. Don't mind the sudden change.
Oh,
let's
wow.
find one. The other hard thing about this is that we haven't optimized this yet for screen projection, but hopefully, is that not too bright for you in there?
Not now.
Okay. So this is a little bit better contrast. Sorry guys, I was trying to figure out what would work best for this demo. So go ahead and take 1 or 2 steps forward. You can get closer to some of those labels. And again, I'm looking out for you, so don't worry, you're safe. We're looking at some classes inside of this directory. So you see in front of you have these objects, class tree, and as you've actually already figured out, you can open it up and look at the source code. So go ahead and scroll up and down on that touchpad that you just pushed down. So, and I actually skip past a lot of that. There's like, this is a giant file with a lot of comments. And then you see some actual executable code there. So what we're doing is we're accessing the source code that's inside the class. So a class is just a document or a script that contains some code. It stores data, has methods for actually performing actions. And what we do is in the environment, we map it to an object. And then you pull out this source code so you can read it. And the idea here is that you're using this as an exploration tool to look at, as I said, a lot of code. There's quite a bit going on in this program. Go ahead, so let's see, and the directory that we're inside of right now, can you actually look up towards the ceiling and just so I can get a sense of, did we open util or is that tree? Tree, right? So everything he's looking at here are all the building blocks of what the compiler uses to actually turn your source code into something that executes on the computer. So you see a lot of commonly used, so binary tree, block tree, break tree, these are all alphabetical, so they're just, we're in one section here. You'll see if statements, a bunch of things that go into building a program. But the point here is just to see that, you know, what would otherwise be a very tedious thing to look through, you'd be double-clicking on a lot of folders to get through all this information. We're just getting it mapped out in a spatial way so that you can actually, your brain can sort of orient itself a little bit. Kind of like, you know, well, really it's like a structural diagram like, well, we like to think about it like a map of information. So as you see, Connor's happily exploring this code. If he was just learning this code for the first time, he could explore and have a guide like myself actually walk him through this, or just freely explore it. The really fun thing actually is when we go and execute the code, and that's when you're really going to see some cool stuff. So we're going to go ahead and flip over into that mode. Connor, if you could, just take, actually let me see where you are really quick. Go ahead and take 1 or 2 steps back. I just want to follow along with you. Okay, this should work just as we are, but I'm going to switch the color contrast again because this next part looks a little bit better when it's darker. So on your right hand, if you hold that out in front of you, there is, this is your debugger control. So there's a button on the very top of it that says execute. You can go ahead and push that for me, please. Excellent. And I got a whoa. That's good. But just wait until you see what's next. Okay, so you see there's a blue line on the floor here. And sorry, I apologize, I'm blocking some of y'all back there, I just realized. Blue line is connecting from where this program is started to basically the entry point of the program. In Java, it's the public static void main. That's the part that the JVM actually looks for to actually enter the program. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to watch this program execute, and we're going to see what's called the object model get built. So there's a couple more buttons on your touchpad, Connor. You'll see as you run your thumb over them, they'll light up. These are standard debugger controls. I won't go into all of them, but I'll just direct you to the button on the right, which is our single step button. What that's going to do is it's just going to take one step. It's going to tell the JVM to just, the Java virtual machine, just to execute one line of code. So go ahead and push that button down, if you will. It's the one on the right. And actually push it a couple times, just until okay, there we go. So we just generated our first object in this program. You can go ahead and walk over towards it, and I'll guide you over there. There's a hand railing that we have to watch out for. So yeah, go ahead and you can take a look at that. You see it's the main. So the program started, we built our first object. This is going to be the object that anchors the whole program. It's really going to direct to the flow of traffic for the whole system. This, by the way, is all procedurally generated. You can load any Java program into our software and it'll procedurally generate these models. So it's really allowing you to get inside the head of a developer. Go ahead and keep pushing that step forward button, please. And we're just going to see what happens. So here's another object that's created. It's called an option. And actually, there's a button in the middle of the controller, your right hand. It's what we call the auto step button. Go ahead and push that down, and it's just going to start playing this animation for you. So, and keep looking in that direction, Connor, where you see these objects. You can actually take a few steps backwards as well. And put my hand on you so you're safe. So we're going to let this run for a second. As you can see, a lot of objects are getting generated here. This is to give you an idea of the complexity of what's going on inside of any given program. There's usually a lot of things happening. We're usually only looking at a narrow slice of a program. What we want to do, though, is we want to give you the big picture and then allow you to drill down on any level of detail. So here we see a whole lot of objects getting created for this compiler. They're basically all these different modes that the compiler runs in. So when you execute code, you can actually tell the compiler to run in a variety of different modes. That's what all these objects are representing. But the point here is just that lots of complicated data is getting presented to you, and the idea here is to be able to narrow your focus down and really understand what's happening on a case-by-step basis. As you see on your right hand, you have a timeline. This is giving you a sense of how far you are into the execution of this program. So we've gone 950 some steps into this particular program. And this is going to carry on for thousands and thousands, if not millions, of animations and steps. We wrote our software to be flexible such that you can really get a handle on a very large piece of data and then jump forward and backward through time so that you can really carefully look at what you want to see. So that blue line you'll see is just jumping from object to object and method to method, just taking a variety of actions. There's code getting executed on every single step. This is really just giving you a window into how the developer or the development team organized the execution of their code. By the way, this Java compiler, it's 150,000 lines of code, but it's compiling a 6-line program. It's a Hello World program that we wrote on our desktop. So this will run for, I think, about like 10 minutes. And that's like, I'm saying there's a lot that happens underneath the hood, and sometimes it's useful to actually see that and understand it. But yeah, it's complexity in VR, and we're hoping that that's actually going to help you to understand your programs better. So we can just let that run for a bit. I'm happy to actually, at this point, start answering questions. I already see somebody has one. Oh boy, we got a lot of questions. Sir in the red shirt, please. Yeah,
it might be a stupid question, but how do you type in VR?
Well, if you can figure that one out, we'd love to talk, because there's quite a bit of a discussion about input in VR. It's actually The leap motion sensors that we're handing out, the ultimate goal would be just to be able to freely use your hands however you want, and then allow the software engineers to figure out what kind of interface you want to present. If it's a virtual keyboard or something else, writing with your hands, speaking, there's a lot of work that has to go into that to make it work. But yeah, it's a good area to get into. But, yes, in front.
Can you use voice or VXML?
Let's have.
If we could, that'd be awesome. That'd make us more like Iron Man, Tony Stark. You know, that's kind of the long-term vision here. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So the first question, well, actually, both of them were about input. I apologize. And actually, we're handing out a mic now. So, question input. What's a good input for VR? And as you heard from the answer, it's an unsolved problem, which I'm not gonna. I don't really have a good answer for it. So, yes, next.
When you change the code in the on the lines, will it remap everything?
Yeah, that's the idea. So, in order to, like, there's a little bit of complicated math that happens there when you want to locally recompile something. It's actually why we're looking to work with more people who have expertise in compilers. That's something that we're hiring for right now. But yeah, the idea is to actually give you the freedom to make changes and then see that change, and just have a flow that you're in when you're developing, and along with your team. It's great when you can have 2 or 3 people in the environment with you, all working on the same piece of software. Okay, how are we gonna? The mic's just getting passed around. Go ahead. Yeah, okay. You next, please.
What's your path to productionalizing this?
Okay, so productionalizing. I've never heard that word before, but I assume what you mean is getting
in the market.
Yeah, getting it in the hands of customers, right? Yeah, that's a good one. So, yes, that's a very important question. What we're doing right now, our strategy is actually to work with small, medium enterprises to really actually build out the tool. We're going to be having to babysit it very much with customers because it's such a new concept, and so we're going to learn a lot from that. Eventually we want to make it a consumer-facing tool, also an education tool. I'd love to get it in the hands of students. I would have loved to have something like this when I was learning object-oriented programming for the first time. I think it would have spared us all a lot of pain, hopefully, so that's part of our mission too, to spare you that pain. Next, yes, please, sir. Are you good, Connor? Are you all right?
Yeah, but
yeah. You just keep going, you're good. Just have fun. Enjoy yourself, seriously. It's good. Yeah, hi, sir.
What kind of data storage are you using? Is this embedded or?
So we're doing everything, without getting into too many details, we're interfacing with Java Virtual Machine, and we're visualizing everything using the Unity engine, which is really great for displaying information in VR. It's the long-term goal would be to give you access to all the inputs, and we'd like to be able to visualize distributed systems. I think that would be a really cool thing to do. Really, yeah, lots of things you could use this for. So without going into too much detail, I'd love to talk to you more about that though offline though. That'd be something that we could probably chat about. Okay, Jared has the power of who gets to get called on. Yes, sir.
Yeah. How well known are the ergonomic issues with this? Like, if I'm a developer using this for 8 hours a day,
right.
I'm probably not going to be standing, but will I get tennis elbow or I don't know?
Oh, I get it all the time, and I get that from typing. I get carpal tunnel from just developing all day long. We do want to keep that in mind. I actually think should be some health benefits to VR, hopefully. But this is actually designed to only really be at most an hour and a half experience. The idea is that you join a company or you join a project, let's say an open source project, as one example. But most likely be, you're joining a company, you're in the office the first day, you're getting trained up on the code base. You go into a room and put on the VR, and an expert in some area of the code base walks you through and gives you the mental map. It's basically the whole idea is that you want to generate a model in your mind of where everything is, and then have that as a reference point when you then do the deep dive for days and days and days and days, which, anybody who's joined a new project, it usually takes you 4 to 6 weeks to really get on board before you actually do the meaningful output. So right now it's a limited experience. We'd like to make it a seated experience at some point. Next.
So as for, I guess, the typing of virtual reality, can leap motion, can you put it above you? You can probably train like a classifier to oh, well, See, that's your big problem right there.
Yeah, as Jared was probably saying, I don't work for Leap Motion, but and I don't know if there's somebody who could maybe better answer that question.
Well, can you interface Leap with VR?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in fact, the idea is to integrate it right into the headset. That's something that's getting worked on right now. Yeah.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
if a lot of processing is happening in the outside world, how do you navigate it?
Say that again.
If a lot of processing is happening in outside world, like shared services or web services, how do you classify the inside and outside?
And that was similar to the previous gentleman's question, I think, a little bit. The idea there is that we would love to be able to show you, network traffic, all kinds of. In fact, there's other projects that have done this. There was a DARPA project that was a cybersecurity visualization that used VR. I think there's so many applications you could think of to do this, and we are focusing a little bit more. But I'd be happy to talk to you more about that as an offline topic. If you're interested. Next, please.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about. So you've got objects in the VR, but then it opens up into language and programming. I'm just wondering, have you been playing with how to put that also into some sort of recognizable object, like frequent commands, and be able to move with your hand a command into place and.
Right. Yeah. Another fun part of this job is inventing new tools. Holographic interfaces is kind of what we refer to them. It's actually a creative challenge. It's just thinking of ways of doing things that are familiar to you, maybe in some way, like opening doorknobs and looking at objects and things like that. But allow you to do things that you couldn't do otherwise, which is what VR can let you do. I realize, there is the incentive to ask questions, because you are getting no wonder there's so many questions in the room. I was wondering, y'all just want some Leap Motion controllers. Yeah, okay, and then how are we doing on time, too? Okay, five more questions. Should I call, or no, go ahead, please.
So it might be a little bit stupid, but when the program compiles and it finishes, what happens? Do you see the hello world, let's say?
Yes. Believe it or not.
Because I just started coding, that's why I'm wondering, actually it would have been perfect to use right now. But is it just say hello world, or if it's something else?
What this is showing you is everything that goes into making that hello world get compiled into some code that actually can run on the Java virtual machine. That is a lot. That's TMI. That's way too much information that you need just if you're starting out the first time. However, I think that it is useful to use visualizations to teach you simple things like how to write your first program, and we'd love to be able to do that at some point. But yeah, our first job is just helping the poor souls that have to deal with all this many lines of code, and so that's why we're focused on the big stuff first, but we want to do that eventually. Yeah,
hello?
Yeah.
Do you guys support remote debugging and maybe even production?
I was just talking to somebody actually about that last night. Somebody was offering, I figured coding with a K allows you to set up your debugging sort of like a push of a button, and they host it all on a cloud service. So that sounded really cool, and again, that's something I'd love to talk more about. That it's not something I have that much information though, or useful things or funny things to say about. But congratulations, you got a controller out of it. Yeah.
If you were to render stuff in OpenGL on the Java VM, would it also render in the virtual world?
So that would be really cool. That would be awesome, and I wish we could do that right now. That would open up on that a little bit. Imagine if you could see the thing that you're trying to build. Let's say you're trying to build a VR game. That's one good example where this would be really useful. Or
a piece of an engine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're inside of the engine. You're trying to figure out your shader or lighting or something. And the idea here, the way we see it, is it would be that kind of Iron Man model where you walk over to some object and you sort of pop open the hood and see the code that's inside of it. So we actually would like to get there someday. That's something that is a really exciting idea. We see that as the future of programming. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that technically. It's just a long ways off.
All right, so I've totally neglected the other side of the room. So we're going to go a few more questions over. So I'm going to give it to this man here, and then I'm going to come on to the other side of the room. So feel bad. I'm like anti the other side, but I'm not. I'll be over in a second.
There's a bias here, some kind. Let's see, you got that. Yes, sir.
I was wondering, how do you scope it? So, if you just wanted to see just your program instead of like the Java C,
right?
And then, do you have any plans to like create like a virtual tour framework, or?
Say that again, the last
a virtual tour, like if I wanted to just create a virtual tour for my code base.
Right, exactly, yeah. So let me address the question in reverse order. So on that one first, that's a really cool idea as well. Think about when you've worked on a team and somebody leaves the team and the sudden panic that sets in when everybody says, okay, write everything down that you know, and give us your cell phone number so we can call you in the middle of the night when something breaks in your code after you leave. Wouldn't it be better if the person could record their digital presence, essentially? We can actually track all of the data that is getting generated when you're walking around the room, and you can narrate, essentially, your code. So it's almost like your digital ghost remains with your code, and which is great. It'd be great to have, even though it's a one-way conversation, it's nice to actually hear somebody talk about their code and kind of walk through it. We think that's a great way to actually preserve knowledge over time. Top of the question, we have, this does function like a debugger, so you can set breakpoints and actually jump to certain parts of the code that you want to look at, so you can narrow down the deluge. So that's how we do that. I'd be happy to talk to you more about that if you'd like to find out.
All right,
okay, that last one. Yeah, here we go.
2 more. 3 more.
2 more, make them count.
Do you see this working better with augmented reality than VR?
Yes. And I'm not just saying that because the meta guys are here. But I love the idea of having Meta. By the way, they're a really great company. They're trying to take on the other guys, the Googles of the world, with their augmented reality headset. So augmented reality, for those of you who, yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Taking on Google. Somebody's got to do it. Sorry, no, I'm going to stop there. So it would be so cool to have everything that Connor's seeing, but like out here, right? So we can all see it. That definitely is the kind of idea that we're excited to pursue at some point when that becomes possible. Yeah.
So there are 2 major aspects. One is a sort of representational aspect where you get to see the geometry of the code compiling or of similar data sets. The other is the sort of random access, like search and navigation ability to find your way to the thing you're interested in, or like to drill down, as is commonly the case. Out of the geometric aspect, what are the most useful things that you've discovered, say, about the JVM?
Yeah. Great question, because I thank you for that question, because I think for the benefit of everyone in this room, if you're interested, I was talking to some folks earlier about getting involved in developing for VR and kind of what you should expect. I think the best advice I can give on that, first of all, is to follow your imaginative instinct and just think about like the most crazy, outlandish way of doing something and then mock it up somehow. And then just get it in the hands of as many people as possible. And if you're getting a lot of feedback, which is like, it's hard to use or confusing, or like if it takes a lot of explaining, then you just sideline it and try the next idea. We've done that a lot. Like there's been a lot of tweaking on our interfaces, and we still have so much more to do. But I'm always on the side, would encourage on the side of just going with the wild, imaginative idea of like, whatever. Doing like exploding. Somebody actually suggested this idea the other day of like when the code breaks, it like explodes. Like the whole model blows up, and then you push a button and it all comes back together. It'd be like kind of satisfying. You know what I mean? Like you feel me, right? Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'd say to that. We're doing one more, Jared. Okay, last question, and y'all can rest your hands now. Sorry, we've been holding you up for so long. There'll be other ways that we could,
Yeah, sorry, you actually covered some of this, but I'm kind of interested in viewing the code in this visual way. When you do kind of run into problems, you have breakpoints or asserts that are firing off. How do you think, kind of looking at the code visually from the various cues you have and how it's connected, will help you figure out, what the problem might be?
Yeah. Step one on our development progress is to build a training tool where you can get a big picture of the code. Step two is to make a debugger, which is kind of what we're on the way to doing. What you don't see here, but what we can do is we can actually visualize multiple threads at the same time. That's something that I've never seen any other tool that can do that visually very well, and that speaks more to the power of VR. Imagine what you're seeing here. You know, we have all these objects, and then you saw the blue line extending through it. We color code all of our threads, so we've run programs where there's, let's say, 8 threads running at the same time. You have a blue line, a red line, a yellow line, green line, and let's say, so one problem you have in multi-thread in runtime environments is, let's say, race conditions, where you might have 2 threads accessing the same field, you know, at different times. And so in this, what that looks like in primitive, we actually have these 2 different colored lightning bolts that extend through space, and then the other one extends and reaches the same field. And that's something where that will lead you in the direction of saying, aha, there might be a race condition in this part of the code. That's something that is sort of a new thing that we've discovered how to do here. Another example would be, in addition to race conditions, like infinite loops, for instance. That's something that if there's a really tricky infinite loop that wouldn't otherwise be intuitively obvious, you're actually going to see a repeating pattern here, and your brain is actually going to be very good at spotting that. Generally, because of the halting problem, it's really hard to actually detect an infinite loop. With this, we can actually use your intelligence to actually figure these kinds of things out with pattern recognition. So, great questions, everyone, and let's give Connor a big round of applause and welcome him back to reality. Connor, take us for a minute. Thanks for being such a good sport. Come on back to reality. You're back. You've been to the other side. Tell us what did the other side look like?
It's pretty impressive. It's a little bit darker than this world. Fewer people.
Yes, it's a barren landscape of digital information. But yeah, we want to bring more people into it, so it's more fun. I would love to give anybody who asks me an individual demo. You can reach me at John, John, at primitive.io. I'm happy to just come up to me afterwards and I can hand you a business card. I can show you the demo. It looks awesome in 3D. So thank you so much, and let's give it over to the Meta guys.